Okay, I think we are good. I think. I'm just going to go with it. Hey everyone, it's Alexander the Real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the next installment of my live Godzilla watch-alongs. Today we are doing the second film in the franchise, Godzilla Raids Again. It came out in 1955. And for the record, I am going to be doing Japanese the Japanese version of this movie, not the American version, Gigantis the Fire Monster, because I want to do one version of each movie, and I would prefer to do the version that I think is the superior one. So we're going to go with the Japanese version. First off, some housekeeping. I'd like to thank all the people in the chat right now. Spider is Prime, welcome. DeQuan Tate, who has never seen this movie, welcome. I'm doing all right. LA is in now has an additional 3 months of lockdown because we want to try to make reopening this county as safe as possible. And I blame the people going out protesting and not wearing masks. But whatever, I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about Godzilla, although I will make an announcement concerning the pandemic in a minute. Nothing serious. This will be fun. Razorbike from Razorbike, welcome. He says, I noticed on Twitter you said you were planning to review a film that's widely considered one of the worst movies of all time. Is that still going to happen or no? Yes, that is going to happen. It's just a lot has been going on right now, considering that there's really nothing to do. Just been dealing with a lot of personal stuff, but I plan to get around to that movie. Trust me, it is coming, and I'm hoping to get that review out before June. I'll say that. Gzilla 100, hello. Looks like we got a lot of people here. So, again, we will be doing Godzilla Raids Again. But first, I want to make an announcement. Sort of a promotion. This Friday... no, wait, I'm sorry. I screwed that up. This Saturday, my Critics Association, the Hollywood Critics Association... That's redundant. But either way, anyway, we will be doing a movie TV trivia-thon on the HCA YouTube and Twitch channel. This will be to basically raise money for coronavirus relief. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if I want to get into too much details about it, but basically I'm helping out with this trivia-thon. It's going to be a lot of fun. I should probably silence my phone. There are going to be some neat surprises. So if you love movie trivia or even TV trivia, come on down, play along. And even if you don't think you are good at trivia, you could still come on down, watch the show, have a fun time. I will definitely be helping out with this trivia bit. So again, that's Hollywood Critics Association Movie TV Trivia-thon, Saturday, May 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be featured on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube channel and Twitch channel. So with all that being said, that is our housekeeping right there. Gonna get to one little question from the comments, from the chat. I have a question. Good tips for writing a good script, because I am planning to make a movie after this. I don't know if I'm the best example. I'm not sure I'm the best. But you know what? I could give the best advice I could being a critic. Just go with your gut. Like the most important thing for me when I want to see a movie is make the characters likable, make them interesting. But if you want good screenwriting advice, and this is kind of another pitch, in a way, unrelated, but I would suggest following C. Robert Cargill on Twitter. He co-wrote Sinister, Doctor Strange. He's the co-host for the podcast Junk Food Cinema and Ride Along. And he was I would say he's one of my influences back when he was a film critic at spill.com. He definitely has come up as a writer, not just in terms of screenplays, but also novels. If there's anyone out there who could give good screenwriting advice, it would be C. Robert Cargill. So go reach out to him on Twitter. Epic Zombie Killer, welcome. Yes, I'm a fan of the Grand Theft Auto series. I love the 5th game, especially. And with all that being said, I'm going to start up the movie because this stream has been going on for about 5 minutes without the movie. And once again, for those of you who are joining, this is going to be watch along at the Japanese version. And if the best way to watch this, it would probably be if you have a Criterion Channel account or if you have the Classic Media DVD. That'll probably work out the best because I'm not doing the American version, which Criterion doesn't have that version, luckily. But enough about that. Let's just go ahead and start the movie now. I'll key you guys in with the Toho logo. I'm actually trying to find a stopwatch for this stream so I can kind of time it with when the movie actually starts playing. But anyway, I'll just mention that the Toho logo, when the Toho logo is popping up, there it is. So you could start the movie now. Godzilla Raids Again. Yeah, I feel like from the beginning, you could probably tell that this movie is not going to be the same in terms of tone with the Japanese version. Just because the music by Masaru Sato is more upbeat. But I mean, I don't think this movie's downright bad at all. It's just, it suffered from the same problems that Son of Kong suffered from. It came out way too soon after the original. In this movie's case, 6 months after Godzilla. This came out in April of 1955 in Japan. And you could just kind of tell that, you could tell it was rushed in a way, but with what they made, I think they made a competent movie, just one that really did not stick the landing in terms of being compared to the original. And again, Toho was still in the process of trying to figure out how to do these movies in a great way. And yeah, directed by Motoyoshi Oda. Because Ishiro Honda was working on another movie at the time, which was actually more of a love story. I could kind of see that, how Sato's score in this movie sounds similar to some of the scores from the Universal Monsters. Ironically, considering that the American version of King Kong vs. Godzilla would use stock music from the Universal Horror series. And there's Hiroshi Koizumi. Why did I forget his name? That's embarrassing. Basically, the actor from Mothra, and who would appear in a bunch of other Japanese science fiction films from Toho as mainly a scientist. Hiroshi Koizumi. There we go. Yeah, thank you, Razorback. But yeah, Hiroshi Koizumi. Can't believe I struggled with his name. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say that they were cash grab sequels. I mean, I guess they were, considering that at the time, you gotta take into consideration this. In 1933, in the 30s and 50s, sequels were not really as prominent as they are today. Or, yeah. And, at the time, the studio, you couldn't, there were no VHS tapes that existed back then. There was no way to watch the movies on TV. You had to see the movies, when they were in theaters, and had to be lucky enough to catch them in re-releases. So, since Godzilla and King Kong were massive juggernauts when they came out, both RKO and Toho really didn't want to let people forget about those two movies. And yes, Ghidorah came out the same year as Mothra vs. Godzilla also, but by that point, the series was 5 movies in. That's unfortunate. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster was 5 movies into the Godzilla series, so at that point they've already like established a formula with not only Godzilla but other Toho science fiction movies directed by Honda. I mean, is it really a crash landing if you're uh, flying a water plane and you land in the water? Okay, I'm gonna have to time that. I'm gonna have to pull up the little display function once Godzilla kills Anguirus, because I don't think that can't be right. That he kills Anguirus before uh, the hour mark. You know, in the American version, of this film, Gigantis the Fire Monster, the actor that dubbed over Hiroshi Koizumi's character was Key Luke, and throughout the entire movie, he just does nonstop narration throughout, and after a while, it just gets really irritating. So it's kind of interesting that this movie has lots of points of being quiet. Yeah, that's not a set at all. Okay, that's not a set, or maybe I don't know. There's a lot about this movie that like really screams cheap, like that right there. I believe that's not a real island. That's like clearly that's clearly a set that Minoru Chiaki is standing on. That's another damn shame about Kobayashi. Minoru Chiaki was one of Akira Kurosawa's regular actors. He was in Seven Samurai. He was in Rashomon. He was in The Hidden Fortress. And and in The Hidden Fortress, he plays one of the like the the two lesser characters that the movie focuses its story on, kind of like C-3PO and R2-D2 in Star Wars. And this is his only science fiction movie. And in Gigantis, he is dubbed over by the same voice actor. I just found this out, by the same voice actor that does Yogi Bear, and they make him sound like a bumbling idiot. My favorite Godzilla game is Destroy All Monsters Melee. Like, it has less monsters, but I think that's the best Godzilla game that's come out. It is 9 minutes into the movie, and we've already seen Godzilla. Yeah, Razorbike mentioned that the first half of this movie moves extremely quick, to the point where Godzilla shows up about 11 minutes sooner than he does in the original movie. I'm mixed about this suit for Godzilla, because I mean, on one hand, it's much uh, it's more scaled down and doesn't look as bulky as as the 1954 movie, or even the movie that would follow. But there's something about the head that's just kind of really bizarre. And there's Anguirus. I wonder how many non-Godzilla fans, like, I would say Anguirus is a sort of popular monster, but I wonder how many non-Godzilla fans realize that he appeared for the first time in the very second Godzilla movie. My least favorite Godzilla game would have to be Godzilla on the PS4. Like, it looks great, but gameplay-wise, that shit is a mess. Okay, this part makes me laugh because they're looking through that clearly they just took concept art of Anguirus and just plastered it into a dinosaur book because no dinosaur. Maybe there's a dinosaur that was recently discovered that looks like Anguirus, but I'm pretty sure that there's no dinosaur out there that looks beat for beat like Anguirus. There's Dr. Yamane. Huh, Godzilla or Superman? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I would say because I mean Godzilla's pretty indestructible, but I don't think he's like invincible the way Superman is, at least on Earth. Apparently, all they have are to go off of are uh, children's books off of dinosaurs. All right, I'm here for my cameo check, and I will make this scene for what it is. This is the only scene Takashi Shimura appears in. He's on the poster, but this is the only scene he's featured in. This part in the American version makes me laugh also because rather than in this version, all that they're showing is silent footage of Godzilla's rampage in the first movie, like you see there. But in Gigantis the Fire Monster, the movie actually starts with basically just a giant history lesson of the beginning of the Earth, prehistoric times. And it just features a bunch of stock footage from I guess educational videos and other American dinosaur movies with some very unconvincing special effects. There's this really dramatic score that plays, and it's just like Dr. Yamai just narrates the entire thing. And then it just really, it's confusing when this footage actually shows up, because the whole movie is called Gigantis the Fire Monster, but then you're showing footage from the original Godzilla. I mean, that's the one thing that frustrates everyone when it comes to the American version of this film. It's like the American producers renamed Godzilla to Gigantis because they didn't want people to be confused with Godzilla, even though there's footage of Godzilla being shown here, and the monster clearly is Godzilla. So bizarre. But it's interesting here that the only sound effects you even hear in the Japanese version of this sequence is the film projector. It kind of makes it pretty haunting. Scoot in a little more so I'm more center of the frame. Yeah, I mean, because of more nuclear testing, that's why Godzilla is back, or there's another Godzilla. We'll remember this plot point later on. No, there's nothing about multiple Godzillas in this movie. It's just at the end of the first Godzilla, uh, Dr. Yamane warned that even though they killed this Godzilla, if humanity continues nuclear testing, there'd be another Godzilla to pop up later on. And as the Blue Oyster Cult song goes, history shows again and again how nature points out the folly of man. Right there when uh, Hiroshi Koizumi says "bakara," which actually translates to dummy or idiot, or uh, in the dub. In the American version, the line is banana oil because they want to try to make the dialogue move in sync with the lip movements, as Razorbike and Spiders Prime just pointed out. And George Takei was actually a voice actor on this movie long before he was Sulu on Star Trek. And he talks about how that line just made everyone crack up. because it's such an outdated term, even in 1959 when Gigantis came out. Honestly, at this point, I'd just rather see another Godzilla movie. I'm sorry, another Gamera movie, because we haven't gotten one since 2006. Um, and then we could probably think about seeing Godzilla and Gamera crossover, but Toho really doesn't want to do that for some reason. I mean, I don't know why. Who doesn't like money? And but they had their, I mean, they had their chance to do that when they distributed the Gamera trilogy in the 90s, but if they didn't do it back then I think they just missed their window. I like how they make a little like a little dinosaur figure to map out where Godzilla is. Yeah, it's pretty clear that this movie wants to try to be serious in tone, at least the best it can to to the original Godzilla, but it just doesn't really work all that well. I mean, they tried at the very least, but also again, I don't think Masaru Sato's score really fits with trying to make a more serious movie. Plus, it was what was I saying? He had yet to find his voice as a composer, because this score is more of a standard score. If you listen to his works on Kurosawa films and his other three Godzilla scores, that's definitely screams Masaru Sato. Hmm. Yeah, it's also clear again that like this is very in line with the original Godzilla, where they think the problem's been resolved, and then the city nightlife just goes on. Everyone's at peace, and then well, we'll let this scene play out. Okay, I knew. Yeah, I knew George Takei did voice lines for Rodan also, but I didn't think he did. I didn't know he did any dub work for Ghidorah. I think that came out. I think Ghidorah came out in the United States just shy of Star Trek premiering. I know Ghidorah came out in '64 in Japan, but I think it came out in '65 in the United States. Better dance scene than Gorath. I still have not seen Gorath, so I can't judge. But this definitely feels like a better nightclub scene than War of the Gargantuas. Sorry if that's controversial. Well, so much for that. Say someone mentioned, I want to say it was a Razor Bike, mentioned that the that Gigantus the Fire Monster featured stock footage where uh, they had a symbol that wasn't the Nazi swastika but looked like it, so it's like poorly blurred out. Yeah, that doesn't appear in this version. Yeah, again, during this sequence in Gigantus, there would be music nonstop, and there would be constant narration from Hiroshi Koizumi's, or I'm sorry, Key Luke, nonstop. Oh yeah, okay. The reason why on the classic media DVD the title says Godzilla Raids Again is because when the DVD was coming out, Toho requested that a new title card pop up there that says Godzilla Raids Again instead of Gigantus the Fire Monster. Because Toho's they're very protective of the Godzilla series. Because I remember renting, this leads to the confusing nature of the American version, is I rented Godzilla Raids Again from Blockbuster back in the VHS days. And the VHS box clearly said Godzilla Raids Again, but I played the tape. It said Gigantus the Fire Monster, and it was just, I was so confused by watching it. Not sure what the point of Godzilla dunking his head in the water was, and that didn't even look like a head. That didn't even look like Godzilla's head. Okay, there he is. Yeah, I think this might have been uh, Masaru Sato's one of his very first scores, uh, because he studied under Kurosawa's original composer Fumio Hayazaka, who scored Seventh Samurai and Rashomon. But when Fumio Hayazaka died, Masaru Sato basically came in and finished the scores that Hayazaka couldn't finish. And then he just became Kurosawa's main composer from there on out. Yeah, it's only 28 minutes into the movie, and we're already in the we're already on the big sequence in Osaka. That moved fast. Godzilla versus the Wolfman. That's actually a unofficial Godzilla movie. I'm not sure if it. I don't know if it's a fan film, or if it was made by some crew members who worked on one of the Godzilla movies. Um, but I've seen bits of it, and it's weird. All right, seems like everything's all good again. Okay, I just wanted to clarify if the voice actor who dubbed for Kobayashi in this movie actually did go on to voice Yogi Bear, and he did. That's something I actually didn't know about. And Captain Crunch. I mean, we'll get to God All Monsters Attack later on, because in some ways I'm coming around to that movie, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh, this moment here. Okay, one of those prisoners is the Faroe Island translator in uh, Thursday's movie that we will be watching, King Kong versus Godzilla. The guy with the I guess the bandana around his neck on the far right side of the screen. I've not seen all of the. Well, first of all, welcome Cassidy J. Williams, but I've not seen all the Star Trek movies. That was easy. That was easy. One of the prisoners just stands up. Wow. Wait, you mean that officer has regular seizures? Yeah, that's not gonna distract them at all. Not at all. Um, okay, what was that? Okay, back to what you were saying, Cassidy J. Williams. I have not seen all the Star Trek movies to rank them. I have seen the three Kelvin universe movies, the Wrath of Khan, because it's Wrath of Khan. Star Trek two, not two, four. Voyage Home is four, right? I gotta look that up before I get crucified by Trekkies who watch this later on. Four is the Voyage Home, yes. Those are the only ones I've seen. I've not seen Star Trek 1, 3, 5, 6, or any of the Next Generation ones, and I still have not seen the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy films. Okay, you know what I'm suddenly reminded of right now? With those cops stop our two main characters and tell them to chase that car. I'm suddenly reminded of that movie Lovebirds that's coming out on Netflix later this month, where a cop gets in. Okay, first of all, Fast and Furious could suck it because this is a car chase right here. You can't say that with a straight face at all. But it just makes it that moment just made me think back to Hellboy, Lovebirds, where that fake cop like grabs in a car, chase after an inmate, and then just runs him over several times. Since that movie is now going to go to Netflix, I will be watching it and reviewing it because every time I've seen that trailer in theaters, I thought, man, this could either be really funny or really terrible, and most likely it could be really terrible. Yeah, this is the slowest car chase in the world. You just need to get Steve McQueen behind the wheel, and it should be good. I uh, I'd like to rewind and see if that was an American brand oil truck, but this is live, and I don't want to disrupt the movie for anyone who's watching. So it's because of a couple of morons that steal a oil truck and crash into a refinery, that Godzilla gets distracted and heads back to shore. You'd think for the period of time that that whole sequence was going on, considering it was the slowest car chase in history, Godzilla should have been long gone, just minding his own business. But no, he just stuck around, and now he's coming back to Osaka. Um, back to what Cassie J. Williams was saying. I'd love to try to watch all the Star Trek movies and the Guillermo del Toro Hellboys, and then maybe rank them at some point. That Godzilla puppet that puppet does not hold. I mean, I talked about how goofy the puppet in the first movie was. That one is even more ridiculous looking. So this Godzilla is slightly smarter than the last one because he has the smarts to try to shoot a plane down with his atomic breath. And that explosion was not timed very well. Sure. It's only 37 minutes into the movie, and Anguirus has shown up. And now we're getting our big monster fight. I also find it interesting that Godzilla's roar changed between these first two movies and then the later films, but Anguirus' roar never changed. Another interesting side note: the suit actor who played Anguirus uh, did some suit work in the original Godzilla, and he and Haruo Nakajima often clashed. So it's kind of ironic that Nakajima, wow, those puppets. I'm sorry, the puppet work here is just ridiculous. But it's funny now that uh, Haruo Nakajima, who continues to play Godzilla in this movie, and the other suit actor who helped play Godzilla in the first movie is now playing Anguirus, and this is pretty much like that, just fighting. That's kind of ironic there. So what the boss says, like, I wonder if that explosion hadn't happened, and they successfully drew away Godzilla, would Anguirus have just shown up either way? Thank God those people in the foreground managed to run away before that blew up. Okay, yeah, you guys gotta go. Like, you can't stay here. Oh, Godzilla versus Barugon. That's a movie that, like, you want to talk about the total opposite of a movie that moves at a fast pace? That movie is slow as shit. One thing a lot of Godzilla fans and even some film historians have pointed out with this movie, like in a positive light, is that the first Godzilla could have been a reference, like could have been a parallel to the bombings of Hiroshima, and Godzilla Raids Again could have been a parallel to the bombings of Nagasaki, which, I mean, that's an interesting parallel, but the only problem is Osaka is destroyed in this movie not because Godzilla is vengeful at all. It's just he's having a hissy fit with Anguirus. Yeah, it's the destruction is just caused through the monsters fighting, who are moving at a very unrealistically fast pace. I think I mentioned this in my review, but I'm sorry, it's just goofy seeing these two monsters move as fast as possible. But there's those two criminals again. But the reason why this kind of goes into the rushed production of this film, but one of the cameras when they were filming this big battle was I can't remember if it's like you would use high speed photography technically to slow down the movements of the monster and give the emphasis of how big they are. One of the cameras was set at the opposite speed, and therefore the monsters move as fast as they do because one of the camera guys screwed up. But I think it was time restraints, or Eiji Tsuburaya liked the result, so he just kept it in. But I mean, if nothing else, you learn from your mistakes, and one takeaway from Godzilla Raids Again is that it's a big lesson in like all the mistakes that they made on this movie. They could learn on them for the rest of the not only the Godzilla series but Japanese monster movies or science fiction films from Toho. The subways are pretty empty considering that the city's supposed to be evacuated or people are supposed to be in shelters. Although then again, if the subways were full, then hundreds of people would die from this. That's a composite shot right there. If this movie was in color, that shot would have been a lot more obvious. But since it's black and white, I think it's hidden pretty well. I have things to say about of All Monsters Attack, but we'll get to that later on. That's Universal Studios Japan's new ride that they're working on while they're closed during the pandemic. I mean, I know this movie is not in continuity. No, no, actually it is. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah established that Godzilla was just a regular dinosaur, a Godzillasaurus, before the bomb went off. And that's the thumbnail I used for this watch-along. So, I mean, they could have known that Godzilla already existed as a Godzillasaurus. It just wasn't until the nuclear bomb that Godzilla pretty much mutated. Okay, what are you guys gonna do with those pistols? Like, if they think a bunch of pistols are gonna stop Anguirus and Godzilla. There's those puppets again. And there goes that pagoda building. It's only 45 minutes into the movie, and Razor Bike, you were right about Godzilla killing off Anguirus before the hour mark hits. I think that's the only time blood was ever allowed in a Godzilla movie that Eiji Tsuburaya did the special effects for, because from here on out, he typically tried to aim his monster movies towards younger audiences, so less blood. And Godzilla had never used his atomic... Godzilla only used his atomic breath one other time against Anguirus. And now he uses it to just pretty much burn his corpse. So yeah, what was the... I think, if I remember correctly, I think Tsuburaya didn't actually do the special effects for that film. I think he was more of a supervisor, and one of his mentors. No, not mentors. One of his assistants did the special effects for Destroy All Monsters. I could be wrong. Yeah, they're not wearing anything to protect them from radiation. It's so weird that it's so interesting that the big scene of the film, the big monster versus monster destruction scene in Osaka, uh, is already done, and we're not even an hour into the movie. Yeah, that you should all be. I don't know. I'm not. Why am I trying to make logic out of a movie involving two radioactive monsters? And I get. There's nothing about that. There's nothing about this moment that feels heavy or deep, because it's just like it's happening to a fishing company, and it's like, oh, our offices are destroyed. Well, let's clean up, try to relocate. There's nothing horrific like in the first movie. Because at the after the big destruction scene in the last movie, we cut to people dead or dying, and it's really gut wrenching. Most brutal Godzilla moment. I would say. I'd say the two killing blows in the MonsterVerse when Godzilla breathes into the Mutos' mouth in the Gareth Edwards movie, and where he pretty much just like disintegrates King Ghidorah. Like, the MonsterVerse has had the most brutal deaths to the villain monsters I've ever seen in a monster movie. But the way King Ghidorah goes out in King of the Monsters is just like, ooh, that's rough. That's really rough. Women aren't like fish. Yeah, everyone seems pretty upbeat, considering that Sako's just destroyed. You really can tell that Honda did not direct this movie, because it would have been a lot. It would have had more to say. Even with as goofy as King Kong versus Godzilla gets, that movie actually was satire for something that was going on in Japan at the time, which we'll get to Thursday. Yeah, that snow is clearly there. That snow's in camera. I'm sure it is. Okay, that snow is, but that last shot was clearly a composite shot. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, no real stakes with that incident. Yeah, I think this is the point in the movie where it just really starts to slow down. It feels, I don't know, the movie structure is just kind of weird. We are 53 minutes into the movie. The big monster showdown's already happened. And we only have about 30 minutes left. So there's a lot of padding that goes on for an amount of time. I would love to see a director's cut of the 2014 movie, but I'm not sure if it'll ever happen. I mean, the movie's 6 years old, so I feel like uh, at this point, I don't think a director's cut of Godzilla would happen. Although, if I had to bet money on it, I honestly feel like a director's cut of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla would happen before a Snyder cut of Justice League, which I still think doesn't exist. Yeah, there's something about movies that take place in the snow that I don't know. I just kind of like, even though I'm not a big fan. I mean, I don't know. It's just LA. We don't get snow, so I'm just not used to it. So wait, Sukue and Tsuke is getting married? Because this is something that I'd never actually. I don't think I ever understood this. To be honest, I understand why there's no DVD or Blu-ray release of Godzilla 1985 because of rights reasons. In fact, the fact that the company that distributed that American version no longer exists. But at the same time, like it's the inferior version, and there are elements about that movie that I truly hate. Um, so it's not a big loss that we don't have it. Okay, so is this just a company party? I guess. So no one's there's no actual. It's not like an engagement party at all. Oh, that urban renewal project line that pisses me off so much. How is Godzilla 1985 owned by Disney? Okay, I totally forgot about this plot point here. The plot has come back. Yeah, suddenly the plot just popped back up again. Okay, that makes sense. I could see that logic. Thank you, Spider's Prime. Okay, I've got people in the chat quoting Godzilla 1985 amongst you guys, which that's great. I'd love to. One thing I'd love to see in the chat is more interaction between you guys. Like, like, just like have a talk amongst each other at points. But like see you guys interacting with each other. Yeah, those Ghidorah deaths were brutal also, but he didn't get disintegrated like in King of the Monsters. Don't get cheap, Kobayashi. He probably makes more money than as a pilot more than I do at Universal. That's a silly shot right there. But that's not the silliest shot in the Godzilla movie. It still bugs me that in Gigantis, he that he's just sounds like an idiot or just a big doofus. Now they never flat out say it, but is that supposed to be her? 'Cause if it is, then that's a little weird that Kobayashi has a crush on his best friend's girlfriend. There's the silliest shot in a Godzilla movie. Like, I don't think there's a worse shot of Godzilla in the entire series than right there, where it's an aerial view and Godzilla isn't even moving. What was that? Like, just over the plane back and forth like this? Symbolism for the women going to see their boyfriends or husbands fly off to war. Wow, just look at that. How many times is Kobayashi gonna call Godzilla a son of a bitch? I think I saw the strings on that plane there. Now, this is clearly an island that Godzilla's on. Does it just eventually turn into an iceberg for the next movie? I'm trying to think of the science or the logic of how Godzilla goes from being on an island full of snow to an iceberg. I think Godzilla's just more irritated right now. Don't do it, Kobayashi. You've got too much to live for. Don't do it. Don't do it. And this was the moment he knew he fucked up. Bye bye, boo boo. I don't mean to. I don't mean to like make fun of Kobayashi's death, because I mean it's sad in a way, but it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. Like Serizawa's death in that movie, in the first movie, had weight to it. Like he gave his life so Godzilla could die, and the oxygen destroyer basically couldn't. The formula for the oxygen destroyer could not fall into the wrong hands. Kobayashi, he gives like. Kobayashi's death is by pure accident. He gets hit down by Godzilla's atomic breath, and him crashing into the side of the mountain just happens to give the self-defense force the idea to basically bombard the mountain with snow and bury Godzilla. Like, again, it's sad, but it doesn't really mean anything. And again, like this moment, there's not really any there's no real heavy drama, because it's more like a shock that for everyone back at the headquarters, it's more like a shock that Kobayashi's dead. Where with Serizawa's death, like everyone knows that like they know the reason why he died, like, and it's freaking tragic. I want to say yes, that Kobayashi was in love with his best friend's girlfriend, but I don't know. The pigtails in that photo just make it make it seem like someone else. This moment, I think, is one of the worst moments in the film where they've got this rhythm going. They're bombarding the mountain and burying Godzilla in ice. And then the movie just stops for our heroes to head back to base to formulate a plan and restock on missiles, which, I mean, hey, that's the first time I've ever seen a movie involving the military versus the monsters where they have to restock on ammunition or they run out, at least until Shin Godzilla. I mean, maybe another Godzilla movie later on will have that trope, but yeah, and the problem with yeah, that's a model. That's a model, all right. The problem with this moment of everyone going back is that it gives Godzilla enough time to escape. Another funny thing about Gigantis the Fire Monster is this sequence here, like throughout the entirety of Gigantis the Fire Monster, Key Luke is just narrating the hell out of it. And during this one sequence, this is the only sequence in the movie where he does not narrate. Like, he just kind of lets the action speak for itself. Yeah, see, now Godzilla's free again. That is a goofy looking face, or goofy looking head for Godzilla. That looks like real snow. Oh yeah, Gigantis the Fire Monster. Outside the fact that Godzilla's been renamed Gigantis, uh, the roars keep flipping back and forth. Keep flipping back and forth between Godzilla's roar and Anguirus' roar, and it's a mess. That version is just a straight up mess of a movie, which is why I decided not to do it. You know, that plane could have had the chance to fire missiles at the mountain, and he missed it. He blew it. Sorry about that, everyone. Akira Takarada is not in King Kong vs. Godzilla. You're thinking of Akihito Hirata, who played Serizawa. Because Akira Takarada wouldn't come back to the Godzilla series until Mothra vs. Godzilla. were some silly shots of like the plane's point of view of flying into Godzilla. There goes another plane. Man, they are using the hell out of that one explosion sound effect. Hey, missed that time. Oh, he got one. That flew right into a mountain. Oh, he swatted one out of the sky. Did that pilot just fly into the mountain? Like, Godzilla didn't swat him out of the sky. And he didn't fire his atomic breath. So, huh. I am going to be hearing that sound effect in my sleep all night. Okay, they use that same, like, final roar from the first movie for when Godzilla's officially buried. Okay, that does it. Godzilla is not dead, but he's definitely buried until the next movie. Where again, I wonder how this snow-filled island with mountains became an iceberg, or how that mountain of snow that Godzilla's buried in eventually became an iceberg. This, honestly, Godzilla Raids Again, it's not a bad movie again, like I said before, but there's just something about it that feels like it really feels like a Godzilla movie had the Americans made it. And that's an obvious painting. And there it is, the end. Okay, that was Godzilla Raids Again. So, yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining the watch along. With the Godzilla series, since there's over 30 movies, with 2 down, we have 33 more movies to go, including the American films. Razor Bike says, what do you think Godzilla thinks about in the 7 years while frozen? I'm pretty sure he just stayed frozen. He went full Captain America for 7 years. Oh, okay. Spiderus Prime says he's gone for good. And then years later, Rodan, Varan, and Mothra come out. I've got some things to say about King Kong versus Godzilla. But as I was saying, because there are 35 movies to cover, including 3 American films, I'll be doing 2 movies a week from now on. So with King Kong versus Godzilla, I'll be doing that Thursday around the same time, because doing these streams like around 7 o'clock has actually been more beneficial because there's no glare from the sun coming in, and it's just more... It's better on my computer because the sun doesn't come down on my computer at all. So, yeah, we are going to resume this watch along with King Kong versus Godzilla. It's going to be the Japanese version, which is a little harder to obtain. I know Criterion released it on their big Showa era set, but it's not on the Criterion channel. So unless you have that Criterion set or you have a bootleg, then this might be a little more tricky to watch. But I just can't do the American version. I'm sorry. So, yeah, that movie will be Thursday around the same time, 7 o'clock. I also want to remind you guys once again that Saturday, May 16th, from 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, will be the Hollywood Critics Association Movie Trivia-thon. This will help raise money for coronavirus relief, and you can find the show on the Hollywood Critics Association's Twitch channel and YouTube channel. It's going to be a ton of fun. Once again, I helped out with this, so if you want to play movie or TV trivia, then just come on down to their YouTube channel, and you can play along. It's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, the Hollywood Critics Association Movie and TV Trivia-thon, Saturday, May 16th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube and Twitch channels. So, yeah, thank you guys for joining this watch-along. I will not be doing Godzilla King of the Monsters, as in the American version of the original movie, because that's already, like, too many movies. And I just don't want to have to watch an inferior version of a movie I've already watched. So... Maybe as a Patreon, because on my Patreon page, I want to start doing more watch-alongs. The only reason I'm doing the Godzilla series and right afterwards the Marvel Cinematic Universe is because we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I want to try to bring in as much content as possible for my channel during this pandemic since there are no new releases. If I could get up to 10 people for Patreon, then I will start doing more watch-alongs. The watch-alongs are at the $1 tier, which, I mean, $1 a month. That's nothing. That's really nothing there. But if you guys can't support me through Patreon, that's totally fine. Your subscriptions on YouTube are definitely welcome. Again, thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one. See you guys later.